In today's video, we're going to be taking a look here at our modeled guidance. As always, we're in a very interesting time of the year where we're transitioning into the springtime from the wintertime. The wintertime obviously looks as though it has been kind of lingering on. It wasn't really existent during January and February, and then all of a sudden in March, it decided it wanted to show up. And now we're kind of dealing with the aftermath of that. Very weird impacts on plants and wildlife. I don't know if it's been that way for where you guys are at personally listening, but this has been a weird spring here in Virginia thus far, and we've seen a lot of things bloom and then die, and I just don't know what the permanent impacts of that are going to be. But definitely a very, very interesting scenario. Now, as we keep going with this, we work our way towards this afternoon. We had terrible, terrible, terrible severe weather across your kind of deeper south regions, Texas, Louisiana, especially Mississippi. Unfortunately, we had a long track, very major tornado. So that is extremely unfortunate. Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, we had severe weather as well, thunderstorms. And now what we see is a strong low here still, a cold front swinging underneath and a warm front, something like this. So we see the warm air rushing up the east coast here, and then the cold air swinging back behind just like this. It's a very classic setup. This is what we're dealing with at this point. The jet stream is doing just about like this, following those frontal boundaries. As we just keep going with this though, we can see that by the time we reach Sunday afternoon, tomorrow, from the time I'm making this video, the jet stream is going to be ascending pretty gently. It's going to be a relatively warm day for most of the southeast into the mid-Atlantic. Maybe some showers the further south you head down that southeast region. We can also see some cold air working its way down through the west here. Very, very on par with what we've seen for most of our wintertime. Excuse that, I just dropped my phone. What you guys don't know, they usually have a timer going, kind of keeping track, making sure the video doesn't go on too long. I used to go on pretty long and sometimes do 20-30 minute videos, but unfortunately with the way YouTube works, if you go too long with the video, you usually end up getting where the algorithm does not like it because people aren't viewing the entire thing as much. I've noticed people usually view the same amount no matter how long the video is. So the algorithm, doesn't like the longer the video is. Pretty unfortunate that it works that way, but that's just how it is. Now, we can see that by the time we're reaching Monday, March 27th, we still have this kind of soft ascending pattern here. We have this kind of warmer air, some showery activity still working its way up the east coast right here. We do have some snow showers working their way into the Rockies from the north here with that cold, where there's a gentle trough out west, gentle ridge in the east again. As we reach Tuesday here, it does appear like there's a little bit more cold air able to work its way into the east as the jet stream is a little bit more just flat across your nation here. It's my nation too, it's everybody's nation, but we can see that there is some colder winds able to work their way through just like this, and that is causing some colder air, especially the further north you go. There's also some warmer air working its way in just like this for pretty exclusively the southeast there. And then we see a more split apart jet out west. Usually that leads towards very calm winds, probably where this low is out here. That'll be a little bit stronger, but definitely a very, very intriguing pattern as we work our way through. And then we can see that by the time we're reaching Friday, Thursday into Friday here, this is going to be the jet stream look. So a little bit of cold air still able to work its way in through the northeast here. But we can totally see that there is a ridge on the way that's building for the east, and especially here across the central United States. And while we're seeing this, we see a very strong low here in Colorado, developing a strong warm front, which is causing most of that ridging to the east. So that warm front is extending along that jet stream there. And we can see cold air diving in behind where this low is, as there is a counterclockwise motion. So you can totally imagine that there is winds pushing southward right there. So we're seeing something along those lines. We are going to probably see a cold front begin to develop underneath that low as well. So we have this definitely very extreme pattern compared to what we saw earlier on this model run as we just continue to track it. This is definitely a much more moving pattern with the jet stream, and that is going to mean more extreme weather. This is a very strong low and likely, unfortunately, our next severe weather event, as we see a very strong cold front developing underneath this whole thing. A very far stretching and intense warm front there, which is causing warm air to rush northward and fill this whole gap in here where we see much warmer conditions, some showery and snowy conditions along that warm front, and likely thunderstorm and severe weather potentially activity with this cold front underneath the low. So we're going to be watching for that as well. Friday, Saturday here. And then even as we reach kind of Sunday morning here, we can see for a lot of the southeast, we still have this activity ongoing for the southeast. Even as we work our way into the afternoon and evening time, we see some of these still going on for the southern, deeper south states, deeper south regions there. And that is going to be definitely bringing some impacts as well there. We can see our jet stream doing about like this. So definitely some colder air for the west and some warmer air, especially in the central, but equally so in the eastern United States, or maybe just a little bit less out there in the east. Definitely another strong storm system, as you can see, is working its way in through the west as well, especially the northwest there, with plenty of snowfall through your Cascades, Sierra Nevadas there, and also down the Rocky Mountain Range as well. You also see some snow showers up here for the upper Midwest going on at this point. As we continue things on, right towards the end of the model run here, which will be the 3rd into the 4th, that's going to be a Monday into a Tuesday here. And we can see that we have a major trough there and then some sort of ridge taking place here for plenty of the eastern states here and the central states, as you can see as far west as the plains here. And look at how identical this is to what we saw just back. I'll try to pick the perfect frame. Yeah, so look right here. Just memorize this. This is the 31st of March, Friday. And then here is the very end of the model run. I mean, that is like crazy resemblance there. I'm going to just draw this on screen what the jet stream is doing, and we'll even get a better look here. So low here, that is the jet stream. And then as we take a look back at the 31st, look at that. Almost completely identical. We have a little bit more cold air working its way into the east there on the 31st, but by the time we reach here on the 4th, it is nearly identical. So what this means and what we can take away is that we're stuck in a pattern, obviously. We have a major trough here across the west, extending all the way northward. There's a cold front likely underneath this low that's right there. We can already see this warm front developing right there. And this jet stream is going to work its way right along where that warm front is as well. So we can see the warm air able to surge up, and especially across your central United States here, that's going to be surging. And then we just see the cold air and snow pouring in behind that low once again. So again, a very, very similar pattern to what we saw before. Now, as we take a look at that total precipitation, we can see that because we have multiple storms moving onshore to the west, we're going to deal with higher amounts of precipitation. Then also across kind of what I would call the central Rockies here, Wyoming, southern Montana, Idaho, Utah. There we can see that there is going to be plenty of precipitation and likely, obviously, tons of snowfall here because of these lows that keep setting up just to the south of this region. And these are going to move across just like this, and maybe even just like this, respectively. And we still have another one on the way at the end of the model run as well. And they are going to feature cold fronts underneath, which will bring that kind of severe weather, strong thunderstorms that'll bring high amounts of precipitation. And that's why we see very, very high amounts underneath here, especially where those cold fronts will be bringing impacts. So definitely some very intense weather on the way. And this looks very similar to what we've dealt with for plenty of this spring so far. We're only 25 days into the spring, but this is what we've dealt with for a majority of it. As we take a look at that total snowfall here, again, high amounts here for Utah, Wyoming, southern Montana, and Idaho there. Likely multiple feet of snowfall there. Same story for the Cascades and the Sierra Nevadas here as well. And then everywhere else is still dealing with, especially the mountainous regions, obviously, still dealing with 10, 20 plus inches, even if you're outside of those areas I pointed out. So still very, very wintry out west. There will be, it appears, some snowstorm activity up here in the upper Midwest, especially for Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois, and through both the lower and upper peninsulas of Michigan there. Both of those areas and all of those areas, for instance, that I mentioned are going to be dealing with 10 plus inches possibly. And we could see some more moderate snowstorms for the Northeast, especially as you work your way into northern New England there, where there's easily 6 to 10 inches for northern Vermont, northern New Hampshire, and northern Maine. Now, we're going to once again, just like we always do, walk our way through this GFS model and see if we get any disagreement. It's good to see these models kind of in agreement and on par with each other. And as we can see, right off the bat, right around the 30th, we see this low setting up right here in eastern Colorado, just like we saw from that European model. The one thing I will say that looks a little bit different is we see a much deeper trough here in the west, so maybe a little bit more of an intense look here from the GFS, but in general, the idea is the same, and that is going to increase my confidence personally of this system looking like this. And this does look like a very bad severe weather setup here, especially across Louisiana, unfortunately Mississippi as well, into Alabama, Tennessee, maybe even as far northward as Kentucky, Indiana, and Ohio there. Potentially dealing with this severe weather as well underneath, as we have very, very warm surging air there. As we continue this on towards Saturday, April 1st here, we can see that this might be one of our first kind of East Coast severe weather events, potentially. I would not be surprised to potentially see a marginal risk or a slight risk for some of these areas, like South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Delmarva, maybe even up as far northward as New Jersey. It's something that needs to be watched for sure, as there will be unseasonably warm air, as you can see, followed up by some cooler air, drier air as well. And then it looks like we get some more activity working its way through the southeast here. We do get another storm around April 5th, 6th timeframe, but it isn't in eastern Colorado. Actually, it is here in eastern Missouri, still featuring that cold front, warm front dynamic. And this would again bring that risk of a more major severe weather event underneath it with the cold front. So this model says we're going to keep dealing with this intense weather, and matter of fact, we're going to actually have a pattern switch here on the GFS. Here, take this with a grain of salt, but we can see a major trough working its way into the east here at the end of our model run here, and a ridge setting up for the west, which is going to help just introduce that possibility of the cold air in the east. I want to see if this lasts all the way to the end of the model run. And it starts to lift off here right at the end. So we saw the heart of it maybe over the Great Lakes, and that is kind of lifted off into eastern Canada. So it's moved further northward, and that has allowed for a more flat jet stream here, as you can see, with less major storms taking place. We definitely need to watch this low, a 992 over New Mexico, though. That could be our next major storm as it reaches more humid conditions. It could become a high precipitation, low pressure system. That certainly needs to be watched. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I think we have a lot of interesting weather on the way to track, so be sure to subscribe. We do upload every single day, and we will walk through this pattern and get through it with you guys. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload, so you never miss one. Also, be sure to like the video as always, and leave a comment down below, because I appreciate hearing from you guys so much. And I will see you guys in the next video.